Kirby said some other things about some interior offensive linemen that were notable for us, as well as when one recruit says peace out, another recruit might be saying, hey, I want in. We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Bulldogs.
You are Locked On Bulldogs, your daily podcast on the Georgia Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Bulldogs podcast. I am Daniel. He is Clint. Thanks so much for making us your first listen of the day, your team every day. We are the Locked On Bulldogs podcast talking about those dogs, and today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Shop now at nissanusa.com. More on them in a moment. We're back talking about some things that Kirby said, some spring practice thoughts, some spring game look ahead thoughts in the third segment for the loyal 199. Just get me to a place where I am watching Georgia football again. That's all we need.
That's all I need.
But first, Clint, let's talk about the recruiting class taketh away. But the recruiting class also giveth. You understand how it works. And
I do.
Kirby Smart, does not, he said this directly in his press conference. He was asked about KJ Bolden. He said, when KJ Bolden was committed elsewhere, how did you go about recruiting him? And Kirby said, I never considered KJ Bolden to be committed elsewhere. At what point did he sign with another team?
Do you see what Kirby said? See, this is crucial for some of you. I don't think you understand what's happening.
Yeah.
This is much like if there ain't a ring on that finger.
Nope.
You're not locked down yet.
No, sir. Okay. So, number one, 5-star defensive lineman says, I'm going to back out of my commitment to Georgia. I'm going to make a verbal commitment to the USC Trojans. And Kirby says, nothing is different now than it was. We said that. We said that last week, earlier in the week.
Tell people what you said.
We said
the quote.
It is nothing has changed in the eyes of Kirby Smart.
He is
from
not
that day
more
to this
or
day.
less committed.
There's
to
no such
Georgia
thing
now
as committed
than he was 2 weeks ago.
That's right. You read these recruiting services and you get this word committed in your head, and that is misleading because that ain't it. To commit is to put a ring on it, and to put a ring on it is to sign your name with a university. So, number one, there's no loss of commitment, and there's also no loss of recruitment. But number two, maybe it opens the door for some other names to find their way into the University of Georgia pipeline. Because let me just tell you this. People want to go ahead and come on to Georgia and get developed. People want good things in their life, and Georgia's a good thing.
This is what I just don't understand about recruiting. We're going to get to who Kirby maybe has an eye focused more on here in a moment, but I don't understand people like Deion Sanders, who says, I don't make
You could just end that statement right there.
Yeah. I don't understand Deion. Period. He says, I don't make house calls because everybody wants to come to my house. Okay. Here's the deal with that. So Justice Terry said, no, I'm going to go over here. And Kirby is not in his room writing songs on his ukulele, crying about it. Okay.
No.
He is saying, all right, let's pivot. If you don't want to be here, okay, I'm still going to talk to you. I'm still going to recruit. There is nothing different about what has happened. I don't even like you less than I did before. But what I'm going to say is you've opened up a spot for me to go ahead and I'm going to talk to some other gals. I'm going to talk to some other people at the bar. I'm going to go see what's out there. And if that offends you, maybe you shouldn't have left the seat next to you.
We were on a break, is what he's trying to say.
That's what he's trying to say. So when you say everybody comes to my house, how's that recruitment going, Deion? Really quick. It's not going well. And secondly,
as long as he keeps having kids, he should be fine. I mean, does he have more kids coming down the pipeline? Because those are the recruits he's getting. Like, so just
true.
It's one way to do it.
Secondly, everybody talking about, well, the players now have all the power. They have more power. That is true.
They do.
And
They sure
we
do.
are here for it. Again, let us state we are for and pro NIL. Okay.
Needs to be regulations. Two things can be
Yes.
true at the same time.
Kirby Smart still has the power because he goes ahead and just looks at the wall of people drafted and says, I developed those guys. Those guys came in. I got them developed. I got them paid. KJ Bolden knows. The rest of the NFL knows. Jordan Davis knows. And Kobe. They all know. Go get paid in the NFL. And he could say that. So that's why when a guy like Jeremiah McLeod comes along and Kirby says, hey, let's talk some more. He is currently committed to Mississippi State, 6'3", 280. Out of Florida. Now, really quick, Daniel, we have any ties to Florida and Havana, Florida? In particular, anybody
we do anything down there? I don't know.
Anybody on the coaching staff have deep ties down to Florida?
Not old James. Surely not. Surely you're not talking about old Jim.
Which is why I would never want him on the staff for Kirby to go ahead.
Yeah. James Coley owns the southern region of Florida, and the nice thing for Georgia is that there are no credible institutions of football in the entire state of Florida. Save for, none of them. There are none. There are none. We got Florida transfers out here saying, I'm finally at a school where people are going to develop me. I'm finally at a school that takes it seriously. That's what people say when they leave the Florida program. Georgia not only recruits the state of Florida well, the state of Florida is part of Georgia's home territory in terms of recruiting.
Foreign territory. I know this kid is near Tallahassee. I know that he's got ties to other states, but make no mistake, that entire region is Georgia territory. We have people that know that up and
there's
down.
Billboards up here in Nashville that say this is Braves country. Like all over the city of Nashville says this. Well, but it's not in the state of Georgia. Well, it's not in the city of Atlanta. It's not in Gwinnett County. But you see how it works. This is Braves country in Nashville. And this is like the state of Florida is Georgia country in terms of recruiting.
100%. Colorado, LSU, West Virginia, Mississippi State, Georgia on this kid. And if he's 3-4 star, depending on the services you're talking about, but if you go from a 5-star and Kirby pivots and wants to go ahead and look at Jeremiah McLeod, there's a reason for it. Again, don't think, well, we lost the 5-star and now we got a 3. Oh my gosh. Y'all
stop. Oh, surely you know by now. Surely you know by now.
These recruiting services are people who can't hack it, coaching people and evaluating them.
Kirby wants you.
You're
good enough. End of sentence. Kirby has not once settled that we have been able to deduce or discern in recruiting. Not one time have we seen Kirby Smart settle. You thought he was settling for Stetson Bennett, didn't you?
Oops.
Didn't you? Oopsie.
Admit it.
Oopsies. He wasn't settling. He said, this kid's good enough, and so I want him.
We're going to come back after this, talk about some more Georgia news, but first, these. And these are, in fact, Nissan. Daniel, right now, our friends over at Nissan is bringing to us the March Madness bracket highlight. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that's pushed it further than the rest of them, just like the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs. These guys are able to take it to the next level. We're talking about the Iowa State Cyclones, can only be described as a pathfinder. They've been thrilling to watch and have really created a lane for themselves, entering the tournament as one of the hottest teams in the country. They have a date with Illinois this Thursday in the Sweet 16. Take the Nissan Rogue, Nissan Pathfinder, Nissan Armada, and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. But that's not all that we have. We have Better Together. Daniel and I, we don't have any friends, so we have to do fantasy sports together because no one else wants us in their league. But that's okay because we have Better Together now.
Shout out to you boys if you want us in there. If you want us in your league, we're not interested, but shout out to us if you want us in your league. Better Together is the place to do it.
Better Together is the first cooperative daily fantasy app. It provides a sense of camaraderie, enhances social experiences. It's a way to stay connected with friends. Gone are the days of watching sports just by yourself. You get to do it in person with each other. Brackets already busted, tired of the same old daily fantasy grind. Make your roster, cross your fingers. Well, that's not what we're doing anymore. What we're doing now is a daily fantasy platform where more teamwork triumphs talent, and you can play with your friends, not against them. Pick more or less on the real-time player stats, strategize with your partner, boost your odds, climb the leaderboard together. We love it. Go get the app right now. Download Better Together now from the App Store. Sign up using promo code Locked On for a chance to win your share of over $1,000 in cash prizes. Remember the code Locked On, because winning alone is fun, but better is better together.
All right, Clint. Let's go back to some Kirby Smart media availability earlier in the week. He spoke to reporters, and one of the things that came out was some discussion of the interior of the offensive line, where if math is your strength, you will quickly come to notice that 4 is greater than 3.
It is.
And Georgia has 4 very talented and seemingly locks to start on the offensive line, and they only have 3 spots in the interior of the offensive line in which to start those guys. You can add a tight end to the personnel.
Sure.
You rarely are going to add a guard to the personnel. Like, that's just not, I mean, maybe on the goal line, but you're rarely going to do that in this day and age of college football. But you look at Georgia's interior, and you've got Jared Wilson, who is the presumed starter at center. Kirby has obviously spoken glowingly of him. He also said this week that Tate Ratledge is taking reps at center, which I felt something when he said it. I felt a thing. But you've got Tate Ratledge, the most experienced of the guards.
Yeah.
And then you've got Dylan Fairchild and Micah Morris, who are two, I'm going to go ahead and use the phrase, obscenely talented football players.
Yep.
And they all play the same position, Clint. So you got 3 spots in the interior of the offensive line. You got 4 guys. I don't think it's a stretch to say this is a good problem to have.
It is.
It's better to have more good football players than it is to have less good football players. That's the fundamental difference between Kirby Smart and Mark Richt's philosophy about constructing a roster.
Yes.
And so that's not my question. My question is simply, how do you see this all shaking out when it comes to playing time and who's on the field when for the University of Georgia this fall when it comes to the interior of the offensive line?
We've seen this from Kirby and his roster management. We've seen this of the offense in particular when it comes to the offensive line. We've seen talented position groups rotate through and change in season, week in, week out. So if you think just like the kind of outdated mentality of a starter, quote unquote, being the guy who's going to be the bell cow at running back, and if you get to be the starter, you're the guy that gets the most reps. If you're out there play one, that's not the case. It just isn't. The offensive line is going to ebb and flow, especially because Fairchild, Micah Morris, they have lots of sparked interest from me because I think they are obscenely talented. However, it's not a guarantee. It's not a for sure. Nothing's punched. Nothing is in there. So if you're going to go ahead and tell me that we have uber talented guys up and down 4 spots or 4 guys for 3 spots, what I'm going to tell you is that's good news for us because one of them's going to hit a wall at some point. One's going to hit a lull. One of them might pop at right tackle, and we need to go ahead and get some cross training everywhere else for Xavier Truss to pop back inside. This is what happens throughout the entirety. So don't just think plug and play 5 guys. That's all. It's a dynamic lineup, meaning it's ever flowing and ever changing. So how I make of this is I'm not going to guess who the quote starter is. What I'm going to say is those 4 guys are going to see significant playing time all year long. The only spot on the offensive line that I know I can guarantee lock up is Ernest Green at left tackle. And I feel fantastic about that. Yeah. Other than that, you can't guarantee me right now that Xavier Truss is going to start and going to get the most reps at right tackle. If I gave you that prop,
Monroe Freeling is right there in the mix, I think. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we can't do this. I think he's in the mix,
Yeah.
and that goes the same for the interior as well. Daniel, do you make the same
Yeah.
understanding observation, or you got something different?
I think that Tate Ratledge repping at center really gives you an indication that Kirby Smart feels like I've got 4 guys on the interior. I think the 5th guy is probably Xavier Truss,
Yeah.
who he doesn't necessarily want to slide in there. But I've got
Okay.
4 guys in the interior, and I want to make sure if any one of them goes down with injury, including Jared Wilson, that I don't have to go beyond those 4 guys. I can just
Yep.
have the 3 of those 4 in at all times, every time throughout the season. And so I think it actually tells you a lot about how much depth Kirby is
Mhm.
planning on using on the interior of the offensive line. I don't think it's very much. I think you're going to have a pretty tight rotation, which you don't rotate a ton on the offensive line anyway. But I think you're going to see those 4 guys, 3 of those 4 guys in all the time, barring multiple injuries. And that only gives me an extreme level of confidence in Georgia's offensive line, particularly on the interior this year, because as you said, Ernest Green at left tackle, and then any 3 of those 4 guys. And my goodness, Clint, you are
Uh-huh.
cooking with a flamethrower. Like
Yeah.
we are talking about a bona fide fireball of gas that you are cooking with at that point. And so I love it because I trust all 4 of those guys. And if I only
Mhm.
need 3 of them at any given time, I think Georgia's offensive line has a chance this year, Clint, to be dominant. Dominant, particularly in the run game. Now,
Yes.
Micah Morris makes me still a little bit nervous in terms of pass pro.
You can't fight that. If you've seen film on it, you can't fight that.
But if
He's a
you
mauler.
tell me that those 4 guys plus Xavier Truss on the offensive line does not stack up to be you just maul people up front and move the ball at will with talented backs in the backfield. I really think this offensive line could set Georgia up to be a really productive run team this year, which is only going to help a very talented quarterback like Carson Beck. It's only going to make him even better. So I couldn't be more excited about it. We've got some thoughts on what we want to see at G Day, what we want to see in the Georgia spring game coming up in the 3rd segment right after these.
But these are, in fact, Amazon Fire TV. Amazon Fire TV is fantastic. Your boys are on there right now. Go over and check it out. It's your destination for sports, live games, highlights, in-depth analysis. It offers amazing viewing experiences, smart TVs, as well as Fire TV Stick that can plug into your existing TV. Whether it's opening weekend baseball, college basketball tournament, you're going to want to watch on Fire TV. It delivers a constant supply of the latest videos of your favorite sports brands, all for free. It includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro sports league and college conferences as well. Fire TV channels let you dive into the deep game, analytics, highlights, more to keep you up to date on the latest of the wide world of sports. March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking videos as well. Check out Fire TV channels or Fire TV on Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. To learn more, visit amazon.com/lockedon-TV. We go to the 3rd segment, Loyal 199 here with us and all the rest of the goodness. We can't wait to continue going this offseason into the season. Can't wait to talk to you about after spring ball, some predictions for this upcoming year, what we're going to, just my golly, I'm going to get a sheet, an email in about 2 months from Daniel, and it's going to be titled some fantastic little quip, and I am going to open it and see a whole spreadsheet of betting advice on Georgia. It's going to be great. Can't wait. To get there, Daniel, we have to have G Day. G Day is an important part.
We get to have it. It's a
We are
privilege. There you go.
Golly.
There you
it's just sometimes you have to be corrected publicly. And you have to receive it.
It's all in love. It's all in love.
It's all in love.
Right.
Sometimes you make a little hidey hole for yourself, and people just can't help but find you in the hidey hole. Daniel, you just
Listen, sometimes it's easy to spot, is what you're trying to say. Just coming down, like you see it years away, like years into the future, you see, and it just like, oh, what's that over there? No, it's obvious. It's really obvious what's going to happen next. All
We're
right,
going to
let's
talk
talk about G-Day.
Yes,
Clint,
shall we?
if I were to ask you the simple question, give
Okay.
me one thing that just comes to the top of mind when I ask the question, what are you looking forward to seeing or observing or learning about this year in the spring game? What is the first thing that comes to your mind?
There's a number of things I am curious to see. There's a number of things
Mm-hmm.
that I need to see, in particular about
Mm-hmm.
position battles and new guys coming in there. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're talking about just pure excitement, getting eyes on the game, and just me turning into little boy fandom, that's how I'm going to answer this.
Okay.
Daniel, it's the best quarterback in college football, spinning the rock to wide
He out there
receivers.
throwing it. Yeah.
That's what I am most excited to see. Carson Beck just come out, cool, calm demeanor, the I don't give a crap attitude that he carries about himself,
Mm-hmm.
that people find off-putting, that I actually find refreshing as all get out.
It's fantastic.
It's fantastic. I can't wait to see him spin the rock to wide receivers. And in spring, especially G-Day, again, you're not putting anything on film. The route tree is really small, but you know what's still on that route tree, Daniel? That little go route, it's still on that route tree, because do a 3-4 step and huck it up and see who comes down with it. I'm excited to see him spin it. Daniel, do you have the same excitement? Something else you're looking forward to? We can maybe end with some things we need to see, but what do you want to see?
Yeah, I want to see the corners. Like, that's what I want to see. And I because it's not a game that counts. It's not a game that I have to get stressed out. If my corners get beat on August 31st, I will be a ball of rage and fury and hatred. Okay? And likely you'll be standing right next to me
Right next to you.
in Mercedes-Benz, and you'll be the one that has to deal with all the ramifications and consequences of my rage and
security will
fury and
have to be
yeah.
responsible for 2 people with.
They're gonna be called. They're gonna be Dubs. Just get ready. They're gonna be called. Okay. But on G-Day, I don't have to feel all those feelings, and so a guy like Julian Humphrey, Julio, as he likes to be called,
Julio.
I get to see him. Dalen Everett, I get to see him. A guy that maybe you've heard of him. His name's Ellis Robinson. I get to see him. I get to see these guys go out and perform.
Mm-hmm.
And Kirby made it perfectly clear. He doesn't think of it as like, oh, we need to find 2 corners. He says, how many corners can play? That's how many corners we have. Okay. So I need to see multiple of these guys make a statement to me that they can play. I would love it, Clint, if we came out of G-Day questioning the wide receivers on this team. I would love it if we came out of G-Day going, do we have the explosive playmakers at wide receiver is Dylan Bell really who we thought he was? Are these transfer wide receivers, Colby Young and company, are they? We thought they were going to be really good, but they just didn't show us that much at G-Day. Boy, if that happens, Clint,
my gosh,
that will mean that you will have seen some things out of Dalen Everett and company, Julian Humphrey and company, that I think as a Georgia fan, you don't want to see, you need to see it. You need it like you need air to breathe, Clint.
Because if that is the case, Daniel, and we see the outside of the field taken away, all of a sudden Glenn Schumann, Kirby Smart, and company have a lot more firepower to work with on this defense that needs to improve. Again, the tinfoil has been burned and thrown and just gone. Need to see an improved defense next year if we want to make a run in the playoffs deep for the national championship. He is Daniel. I am Clint. This is Locked On Bulldogs, part of Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every single day. Thanks, 199. We love you. Thanks for making us first listen. We'll see you guys later.
See ya.